What if I told you that rent checks are only the beginning of your multifamily profits? Welcome to Strategy Saturday. I'm Charles Crillo, and today we're discussing maximizing multifamily profits beyond the rent check. Monthly rent checks pay your mortgage, but these income streams can take your cash flow to the next level. So let's get started. In addition to collecting a monthly rent check, there are a number of different ways for multifamily investors to generate additional income. And the beauty of most of these ancillary income ideas is that the revenue generated from them has a much higher profit margin compared to the profit margin on the rental aspect of your property of loan. So let's talk about the first one, which is fees. Now, application fees. Some managers like to make application fees a profit center. I personally do not, since a high application fee is kind of like a junk fee that cannot be avoided. Our goal is to rent out units, and we want as many good tenants to apply as possible. And we price the application fee to cover the cost for the background check service, in addition to the estimated cost for our staff to actually process the application. However, late fees, on the other hand, is a penalty for late rent payments, and that encourages tenants to pay rent on time. If you don't have a late fee, they're going to put you at the back of the line when it comes to creditors to pay. We don't want that. And if they do that, we want to be compensated for that. Early termination fees. Early termination fees, if someone breaks their lease, and it's something that I never really put into my leases until I moved down to Florida and started investing in Florida, and I realized what was going on down here, and a lot of the leases had these early termination fees, which weren't as common in the Northeast at that time. And it also offers a cleaner way for someone to leave early compared to a tenant who simply says they are leaving, and now you have to figure out a solution. And charging 1 to 2 months rent is typical. I probably would charge 2 months for this because there's a lot of hassle involved with it. So 1 month you're going to lose immediately for like cleaning up the unit and renting it out. It probably might go over a little bit of that 1 month, and you want to keep some of that second month is actually going to be some of the profit if you're able to get it rented within that 1 month window. Now, this is one thing that makes it cleaner in the sense of like there's no, when they contact you as the landlord, as a property manager, hey, what happens? I want to leave. And there's not really a clean way of doing it. There's nothing written down. So now you're going back and you start negotiating. It's different if it's like, hey, check page 12 of your lease, and it says there it's a 2 months of your rent for early termination. And at that point, then what you're able to do is you're able to clearly tell this to your tenant, and you guys can move on from there. There's not like a new negotiation and agreement that has to go on, and they might just ghost you and leave. And I'd rather try to get those 2 months than try to collect the other 6 months or something of the lease that you're never going to get. It's easier just to say, just pay me a one-time termination fee and you can move. Other fees, we do not charge these fees, but you can, and they would include like lease renewal fees. We want to keep tenants in there, so we're not going to charge them any type of fees on renewal. Move in, move out fees, it's something else you can charge. Maybe if it's the unit or your complex requires management to assist, this is something that you might be able to charge for. Next section is rental services. So pet fees and pet rent. Now, charging an upfront pet fee and a monthly pet rent fee for tenants with pets. And it's a great way to make additional income. But make sure you save some of these fees to put towards make-ready fees once the tenant moves out, because there's going to be more wear and tear on the unit if there's a pet. No matter how big or small or lovable the pet is that the tenant tells you, there's going to be more make-ready required. So don't spend it all. Keep portion of it in your make-ready funds in your savings so that you can use this for the unit when the person actually moves out. Renter's insurance. So if you partner with an insurance company to offer your tenants renter's insurance, always require your tenants to have renter's insurance, especially if they have a pet. Okay. And the thing though is that you'll see this a lot with storage complexes. Okay. Not so much apartment complex I lived in. I don't think they really had a deal with renter's insurance. You could just go online and get in, $100 or $200 a year or whatever it was. But storage complexes, self-storage units, they do this really well. So you rent the place for $100 a month, and then they say, oh, if you don't have, if you don't have insurance or anything like this, we can do it, and it's $11.95 a month. And let's be honest, when you look at that, what it covers, and there's a deductible and all this other stuff that goes with it, I mean, they're getting a nice percentage out of that for providing that service to them. And they get the big commission on it because they're actually selling it. But there's very little risk for the for the actual insurance company. That's why they're going to give out such a nice commission to the self-storage complex. But they do it really well, and that's something you can offer to your tenants. Okay, moving forward with storage units, so renting out storage units to tenants. So this is one way. I've done this before. Not really storage units per se. In some of the properties I've owned, but we've done like a lot of garages. When I started investing in properties, they would have a lot of older houses I had garages, and we'd subdivide them and we'd rent them. They could be storage units, but we only allowed people to put cars in them. It was easier to evict them, as my property manager would say, so that if they didn't pay, but it was easy to rent them out. And that was one thing too, is we always got more money renting garages to people that weren't tenants versus people that were tenants, because the people that were tenants, they would try to always nickel and dime you and try to get down. So we kind of stopped just offering it, and we would just rent it without their knowledge. We never put a sign up or anything like that. You put it online and they would go very quickly, especially if you're in anywhere with cold weather. Those things rent out because people will keep their stuff in their cars in there, their specialty cars for the winter for sure. But also, if you're in like a little bit of a city area and they might want something that's a little safer than leaving in their driveway, if they already have other cars, it's going to be a huge pull, and you never have an issue with pullback on those. And you can rent garages, in hours. Not even days. They rent out very quickly. Parking. So charge for specialty, reserve, premium, or electric vehicle parking and charging. If there's covered parking or a garage, these can also be great income sources that we kind of always talked about. And when I own properties with garages, they did really well. And you could also take other room that you had in your property and you could break that up into storage as well. So creating storage units, which could be, it might take more work than it's really worth, but if you have extra room, or you have some lockers somewhere, or extra rooms that maybe were closets before somewhere on the property, yes, you could put those into storage units and rent those out. With storage units or stuff inside the property, I probably want to rent that only to tenants. If it's outside the property, it's not really connected to the property. Like I said, garages, that might be something that I'm only gonna, or really kind of push to people that aren't tenants. But I don't want people inside the property, inside locked doors, that aren't tenants there, because now it's not just renting a garage or storage unit. If they need access to inside the property, now I have to go through a whole background check, because now there's going to be more interaction with other tenants, and it's not just like dropping off their car and leaving their car. Also, make sure if they have these garage like type things that you're not giving them like electricity. I don't want them turning your garage rental, that's really just a storage unit, into a garage, and also put that into the lease that they can't do work at the property. If they want to do work on their car, they have to take that car off site and they return it as it's running again. You know what I mean? We're not running some sort of like garage, something like that. And it's also cleans up your property, but also somebody can get hurt underneath a car, fixing a car, all these type of things. And also, if they're doing it in the garage, they might do it in front of the garage. And now, if you have really tight parking, that's going to make some of your tenants mad. So we're trying to increase income without kind of making anybody else upset that's at the property. Another thing I found is package lockers. So you can charge for package lockers, but I believe it minimizes many issues with missing packages. Therefore, I would not really charge for it, as issues with missing packages ultimately are going to be the burden on the property manager in trying to resolve them. So you have a property, and you have an on-site property manager, let's just say, or even if you have an off-site property manager and packages are disappearing, that property manager is trying to keep tenants happy, and they're trying to rent new units. They're trying to minimize vacancies you have, and that's what their real job is. And now you have tenants coming to them and saying, my package was stolen, my package said it was delivered, and now they're like really being someone that's really handling all these packages. It's maybe easier to have a package locker system where people can put their packages in there, and then that way it allows them to safely receive packages. Other thing too is with a lot of these different services, they might use a third-party off-site package locker. So you put something in your lease that says we have no knowledge of it. That's something also we have no control, and we don't guarantee packages or anything like this. We suggest you use one of these package lockers. So like Amazon has them all over. So get your package delivered there if you don't have room at our property for your packages. And that would be something that you would put as well in like your cover sheet of the lease. Here's where the rent's due. If you're issue, call here. This is how you pay rent. And then just letting you know, trash days on this day, and then packages are 100%, they're all on the tenant. the landlord has nothing to do with any packages. If they're stolen, if they're missing, we cannot help you. And let them know that immediately, and maybe show them, hey, there's packages, lockers here. If you get your Amazon stuff, have them delivered here, and don't have them delivered to the property, because we can't guarantee if there's any type of problem, and we can't help you at all. Okay, short-term rentals. So offering short-term rentals at your property, you need to check with your lender and insurance company before proceeding, but it can be a valuable additional source of revenue. I think like 2018, we had a property in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was on a bridge loan initially. So it wasn't like the lender didn't really care how we were making money on the property per se, if it was short-term or long-term rentals. And so we were using we had short-term rentals in there, and I want to say maybe like 10 units. It was like 98 unit building or something. And like 10 units or 15 units of the property were actually short-term rentals. And it was very profitable, right? So what we did was that the problem was that when we refinanced it into a government, I think it was Fannie Mae financing, we had to get rid of those. So it kind of killed our cash flow a little bit, but it shored up, and instead of floating rate debt, it gave us some solid fixed rate financing. We ended up selling it afterwards, but it was one of those things where having those short-term rentals, if your lender is fine with it, and if you have the demand, and you have someone that can help manage them, like an on-site manager, which we had, makes everything run smoothly, and it can really be a valuable source of additional income. Another thing, when I've lived in apartments before, one time, the last apartment I lived in was valet trash services. Charge tenants a fee for having their trash collected at the door, typically twice a week. Laundry cleaning services, charge tenants for apartment cleaning or for valet laundry services. So if someone doesn't want to do laundry, they can have their laundry picked up. They can leave a bag in front of their unit. It gets picked up and it gets dropped off again. You can usually negotiate a better deal with these services, and also get a cut of that, because they're coming and they're picking up 10 units at a time, not just driving one place for one, and they're dropping off 10 units at a time. Usually you can get a little bit of a better thing there. If they don't partner with any other laundry services, they'll pay laundry room. So if not, every tenant has in-unit washers and dryers. An on-site laundry room might assist your tenants while also generating additional cash flow. Now, you need to be careful with laundry rooms. If you are getting a contract for a vendor to come in that takes care of your laundry room, so they provide everything and they give you a set amount, or they give you a percentage of what's made on it, or if you're buying a property and they have a laundry room and they already have a vendor in there, because whoever the next owner may be in the property, those laundry care contracts will carry over to the next owner if you sell the property. Therefore, if your contract with the laundry firm is unfavorable, it may slightly devalue your property. We had a property once, and the contract ran out and we didn't renew it. And we actually had our laundry room vacant for months because it was a selling thing. Now we could go and put it out there to our investor, or in the market with our broker, and say, you choose, there's no laundry contract here. You go out and you can choose your own laundry contract. There's nothing else here. And that is much more, when you don't have contracts that carry over to the buyer, these are all benefits of people buying from you, because if they can now make their own decision and put their own laundry company in there. So moving on to utilities. So RUBS, ratio utility billing systems, and you can bill back utility services to your tenants that are paid by the property owner. And you need to be very careful not to overcharge, charging only the actual cost paid in utilities. Typically, this is done with older buildings that lack individual water meters for each unit. And in 2 weeks, I have an episode coming out on RUBS, and it's going to be SS259. That's SS259, so you can check that out. And it's all about adding RUBS to your property. Next is Wi-Fi internet packages. Now, the internet is definitely one of the best ways to generate additional income, I feel, in these recent years. And we recently did this at a property, and I believe our cost for like 1+ gig high-speed fiber is around like $20 or $25 per month. I've seen some people do deals that was maybe up to $40 a month, but either way, it's a premium service that every tenant will use, and which you can now offer to them for much less than they would traditionally pay themselves. So it's actually a real benefit for everybody involved. For the property managers, for the company, if they're charging, say, $50 a month for this ultra high speed fiber, where your tenants might have to pay $80, $90, $100 a month for the same thing, and then where that that property manager, that landlord can now make somewhere in the neighborhood of $10, $15, $20 a month off that. It's a win-win for everybody. And then for the service provider, they now have the whole building locked up. And yes, they're making that $10, $15, $20 a month more as the property owner. However, they're paying that even on vacant units. So you have to figure that out. And that's why you might want to make sure you're making that extra $5 or so a month per unit. That is when people are paying you, because you have to make up for some of those vacant units that you're still paying. And that's the deal you'll have with it. Hey, we have 100 units. We can pay this company. It's going to be $30 a month per each unit, no matter if they're vacant or if they're occupied. And then we go to our tenants and we're going to sell them for $50 a month. Okay. So it's an additional income source. And for, it's a huge benefit and everybody wins on it. And the service provider now has 100 units locked up and they don't have to fight anybody for many years to come for that contract. So value add services moving forward, this is like vending machines and ATMs. And usually these do not cost the property owner anything, and the provider will simply split profits with you. So like ATMs, I know it's like they may charge your tenants $3 to $4 per transaction. In today's time with many banks, they cover that back to your tenant, to that account holder, and then they're going to split that fee, whatever's charged, with the property owner. Okay. On-site retail. I mean, does your property have any unused space that can be legally converted into a retail unit and rent out? Advertising. So local businesses may want to advertise to your residents and pay you a fee. And it could be a win-win if you accept a lower fee for advertising and if the merchant offers an exclusive deal to your tenants. So I was in many years back when I rented an apartment, they had like a shopping center that was next to it. And what the property managers did was they got all these deals from the retail tenants at the shopping mall to offer them back to the tenants of the building. So it'd be like, 20% off haircuts or this or that, or get a free here or discount here. And that just incentivized all those tenants to, instead of going somewhere else to use services, restaurants, whatever it might be, to go next door to the shopping plaza. And it was very, very smart because, again, it's a win-win for local businesses, for the tenant because they're getting a discount, and also for the landlords. I mean, people like using the shopping mall next door and all the retail stores. It's going to help you retain those tenants, right? Clubhouse rentals. Is there a common area that can be rented out for events? This is a big one. So if you have anything like that, you can start offering out to tenants. Make sure you have to deal with the whole insurance thing. It's just like getting like a wedding venue. You probably have to get your own insurance for it, have that already set up for them where they go and get that to make sure there's no issues. And of course, everything gets really mucky if there's alcohol involved in anything like this. So this is something you've got to check with insurance. You've got to check with your property manager. Now, rental property that incorporates some ancillary income ideas with a well-run property will not only increase its income, but also increases its tenant retention. So just don't get too aggressive in charging for services that many tenants would consider to be included in their rent, such as like access to the gym or pool. And if you're interested in learning some tactics for finding tenants, you can check out episode SS216. That's SS216. I hope you enjoyed. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, submit comments and potential show topics at globalinvestorspodcast.com. If you're interested in actively investing in real estate, please check out our courses and mentoring programs at syndicationsuperstars.com. That is syndicationsuperstars.com. Look forward to 2 more episodes next week. See you then.
Have you always wanted to invest in real estate, but didn't have the time, didn't know where to find the deals, couldn't get the funding, and didn't want tenants calling you? Since 2006, I've been buying income-producing properties in great locations that provide us with consistent passive income while we wait for appreciation in the future and take advantage of tax laws while we're waiting. And unlike your financial advisor, we invest alongside our investors in every property we purchase. Check out investwithharborside.com. If you like the idea of investing in real estate, if you like the idea of passive income, partner with us at investwithharborside.com. That's investwithharborside.com.
This episode should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Any investment opportunities mentioned on this podcast are limited to accredited investors. Any investments will only be made with proper disclosure, subscription documentation, and are subject to all applicable laws. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Syndication Superstars, LLC exclusively.